for our first event, which was being held at Tech Liminal, another co-working space in downtown Oakland. To celebrate that, we decided to buy 2 large 8.5-foot Stay Puft marshmallow men, like from the movie Ghostbusters. And the shipping would have taken too long. Apparently the person who has the widest sales reach on eBay of those kinds of blow-up things is from San Leandro. And so we met in a parking lot. There was no store or anything, and handed over the, I had paid online, handed over the 2 stuffed Stay Puft marshmallow men boxes, and what are you going to use it for? And I said, it's for our hackerspace Sudo Room. And I got that a look that I've gotten before, but one that was on the side of, do I need to tell the Department of Homeland Security about this, or is this okay? So that was my first interaction with San Leandro, and coming here today also I think is instructive. I came a little bit early, and I wanted to use the internet. So I looked around, I parked in like the main parking lot, and I ended up at Cafe Sereno. They haven't paid me to say that. Because there was a sign that said free Wi-Fi. That was actually the only one that I saw around downtown. I sat there and, I would love to spend more, but my $10 to San Leandro today went there. And I think the point being is that in transactions in our lives and how we organize things, technology matters, and the way in which that technology mediates between people matters. I chose a place because they had free Wi-Fi. I still have to go to the cashier and ask what code it is today, which I promised not to tell. And so the point about technology being an important part of the development of business is something that California's seen forever. This, as far as I know, you can learn a lot from the internet, by the way. I looked up some of the history of San Leandro and learned, first the Olone people were here, and things really got big around the gold rush. In fact, quite interesting, there were bands of people here. There was a study done of the first year before tons of people showed up to California from everywhere. And the contracts between the people were of about 6 to 8 people, and they were shared contracts rather than this is my piece of land and anything I find in it is mine and I pay the workers to mine it. It was like, we're 8 people, however much gold we find, we'll split it. And that's another way of saying the sharing kind. And so, that era and the way that technology affects things is important. The canneries being here, apparently Jack London stole oysters from the bay or something, and then became a cop. You'll have to excuse me, the historian must be in the library, I would imagine. Daniel Best, the sort of, I would guess, father of this town in ways of making it big, was into technology for agriculture. So it wasn't the agriculture itself. It was that point in history where we moved from being able to take like a small garden and get some food out of it to a huge plot of land, and you need these big things in order to get it. That's part of that. That was the wealth that came here through the technology. And I think of like the railroad. You see those pictures where the people were at the end of the line in Oakland, and they're like smiling, and I've always wondered, what they were thinking. And let me just suggest that today, if we're announcing a state-of-the-art fiber optic loop, you should think of yourselves as being in that picture. At the end of the railroad, something happened. It may not seem like a big deal, but it is. So, having talked about the history of San Leandro, I should probably say something about Sudo Room. Sudo Room is a hackerspace in a sense that It's kind of like a co-working space or tech incubator meets the public library. It is outward facing, it is about education, it tries to reach people and have open doors. It's membership run and volunteer time. All of the furniture has been donated, including the church pews, and the number of things that have come out of it have been incredible. There's actually a project now in terms of open community wireless to actually set up routers all around Oakland so that there would be one network that would be freely available for people to get on. So I wouldn't just have to go to Cafe Sereno, I said again. I could just, wherever I was. And that can happen here, now that you guys have fiber optic. Share the wealth, you know, turn on the router to open, see if more people come by. Just a thought. Oh, get someone to check out the security, please, but then do that. There's a community of different groups that have come to be connected to Sudo Room, and partly because it's so open. The Oakland Wiki project, which is really like a information resource on the web that is totally self-run and community generated. The Hack the Budget process, which is actually turning into a city bill that would allow for, hopefully, a portion of funds to be determined, or at least get input from the public on how it should be used. The Bay Area Public School has come out of it. They hold classes and poetry readings. We have every Saturday the Today I Learned. This is in the Uptown neighborhood where you would most likely be on one of the Art Murmur First Fridays at 22nd and Broadway is where Sudo Room is. So Sudo Room, the word pseudo actually has meaning in computer language. It's the command line version of kind of how we think of the Quaker meetings and how they ran. Super user do is what it stands for. SUDO, and it sort of says like for this command, I get to, say what goes, or I get to, dictate the next step. And you stand up, and then that doesn't mean you're like ruler forever, but for that you did. And that's the theme, and that's the, I think, sharing economy aspect of a hackerspace, and all of these co-working spaces, which are, extraordinarily impressive, and people should be, wowed by the fact that a lot of this is like volunteer, come from nothing, and create something real. I think before going on too much, I think there, of course, there has to be a business model, and there are a lot of things that influence that. And I think that I'll go back to the gold rush and Samuel Brannan, who, for those of you who grew up in California, was the guy who ran down the San Francisco hills yelling, "There's gold in them thar hills," and then everyone ran, and the city turned from like 15,000 people to 500,000 people in a year. That guy is also the first millionaire of California, and that's because he set up Brannan's shop, Brannan's store, next to Sutter's Fort. So everyone was going and getting the gold, and then they came out and they had to buy supplies or clothes or whatever it was, and so it was actually Brannan who got that gold, and basically we're describing what I guess economists would call a secondary market. And I think the notion here that knowledge is actually what is being mined now when we're trying to understand what can be done with information in the internet. And we can go knowledge mining, and the fruits of that can actually be unexpected and secondary. What have we learned? We've actually learned a lot from doing it from scratch, and I think that we also hope that different forms of business models, I think crowdfunding is something that the city should think about and consider as something to be a priority, but I think the sharing economy is something that needs to be grasped as actually a bigger deal than just today's talks, and with some really fat pipe, as they say. You guys should have fun with it. Thanks.